Okay, we just got the information that we are being recorded, everyone. So be on your best behavior. And welcome, everyone. This is a session from the Wellbeing Network for all the Royal Albert Hall staff. And we will be talking about mood and immune boosting food. And Sarah is coming to us from the Healthy Workplace Charter and Westminster Council. Is that right?
Yes, that's right. Thank you very much for that introduction, Kasia. Thank you very much. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. My name is Sarah. I'm a registered nutritionist, and I work with businesses in Westminster to support their staff with employee wellbeing. So I'm working with Royal Albert Hall, who, as you know, you guys have been accredited as being a healthy workplace, and are working towards the next level. So today I'm going to be talking about mood and immune boosting foods. So we'll be talking about foods that can help support our immune system and support our mental well-being. Okay, so we're going to cover why it's important to eat well at work, good mood food to support our immune system, and why we need to have more vitamin D. And then we will have some time for Q&A. So there will be time for question and answers later, but please do feel free to put anything in the comments, in the chat section, any comments or questions, and we can kind of discuss that. There will be an activity as well, which we can work through, so I'll try and keep it as interactive as possible. Okay, first, so let's have a think about why is healthy eating important during working hours? And I've deliberately said working hours and not at work because, you know, our workplace has turned into our home and our home has turned into our work. I'm going to give you 3 key reasons why this is important. So we spend 2/3 of the day at work, and we consume at least 1/3 of our daily calories while working. Eating well can improve our concentration and boost energy, and also it improves productivity and performance. On the other hand, though, if we don't eat well, it can, worsen our mood, and it can, increase absenteeism and make sure that we don't work at our best. It can also increase the risk of obesity, which leads to things, which can lead to things like obesity and cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and cancer, as well as increasing absenteeism and decreasing productivity. So, it is really important to focus on what we eat while we're at work. So I'm going to get you to have a little think about what you eat at work and your eating habits and what influences that. So when I talk about kind of eating habits, it's what you eat, where you eat, how much you eat, and things like that. So what we're going to do is just a little activity to have a think about what influences our diet at work. And then I think we might have lost Rosanna. And then just have a think about how we can then improve on that and use the things that have affected our diet at work and think of common themes and how we can address that. And then what we're going to do is list some changes or goals that we might want to achieve. And I'll give you a tool that can help to support that as well. Okay, this is the time for the activity. I'm just going to check, Kasia, is everything okay with Rosanna? Just check.
Yes, she's just messaged me that a customer came through on the call.
Oh,
So
okay.
she will be with us soon.
Okay. So what I want you both to think about is what influences how you eat at work. So we spend about 5-10 minutes just having a think about what different things at work affect our diet. So yeah, you can kind of speak between yourselves because there's only 2 of you here, so we can kind of just do it as a group with each other. So what do you guys think?
I suppose people you are working with can influence that. So if someone brings a lot of treats to work to share with others, that could be a trigger, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that we tend to take a look at, just out of curiosity, at what our co-workers are, eating or choosing to eat, and somehow, without realizing that yeah, I agree with you. I think it has an impact on our own choices. Like, oh yeah, oh, you're eating something, I don't know, it looks tasty. And if we are, for example, in a canteen where we can probably try what the other person put on his plate, then we will, because we saw, oh yeah, you're trying that. Oh yeah, I'm gonna try the dessert or whatever, or start course or whatever. Yeah.
Yes, also not actually bringing your own food, but if you're, let's say, at the hall we have a canteen and they provide food, so you'd end up eating more food that maybe not necessarily is good for you because it's available and it's free.
Yeah.
So because of that freedom, you're actually ending up making bad choices, I suppose.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Yeah.
I suppose the working hours as well. So if you're not taking enough time and you eat in a rush, then again, you're limiting yourself to having a mindful meal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I have the impression that the levels of stress as well, if you feel, I don't know, that you had a tough morning, and at least myself, I would be more tempted to like try and compensate for that with the food, like pretty much like like emotionally eat. Oh yeah, no, I need a treat. I had a tough morning, so yeah, let's go for the fried unhealthy stuff. And
yeah. I suppose the weather as well.
Yeah.
So if it's colder, you tend to eat like more comforting food.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, these are all really great.
Lack of sleep can also
absolutely. It's a really good one.
Gosh,
maybe,
yeah, lack of sleep, yeah.
Maybe the amount of water you drink as well. So if you don't drink enough, you actually more hungry.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, these are all really great things that you've come up with. Absolutely, so people bringing in treats is a really big one. That kind of cake culture, what co-workers are eating. So I'm going to talk about this in a second, the whole kind of social aspect. As well, the workplace environment, so this free available unhealthy foods, working hours and stress, really big one, and then weather as well, something we can't really control for, but yes, does lead to us eating more stodgy, kind of comforting, energy dense foods. And then as well, lack of sleep and water, which I'll talk about later, in terms of how it affects our brain and makes us think that we need to eat something when actually we're just lacking water, which reminds me, it's time to have some water. Yeah, so that's really great. And what has that kind of made you realize, thinking about these things? Anything that's come up, or anything that's kind of surprising, or?
I just realized when you added lack of sleep, yeah, when you said, Cassia, that lack of sleep, I mean, I just realized how strong an impact that has on me. If I don't sleep well, I know, and it's a conscious, I know that I have those kind of unjustified moments of hunger, and I know I don't need to eat, but it's just, yeah, I feel my body a bit, I don't know, lacking some kind of balance or something. And yeah, I have those weird kind of, yeah, moments, yeah, when I eat too much and when I overeat just because of lack of sleep and stress. That's a massive thing with me. I know every person is different, but that's a big one with me. So I was a bit like, oh yeah, lack of sleep, gosh, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just one other thing came to mind, that if you don't eat the kind of right kind of breakfast, you feel more hungry in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So I've noticed that a lot, that if you have more sugary breakfast, let's say, then you're kind of compensating that over lunch with more food, because you didn't get enough nutrients in the morning.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
But yeah, all of those are kind of obvious.
Great. Okay, so let's try and put these into themes. So they're both very great points, you know, about the lack of sleep and breakfast. It does have an impact on what you eat and how much snacks you have later, definitely. Great. So what we where is the text? I suppose I've got to put it in this one, haven't I? So we can break it into three themes, and the first one is job factors. And what we can think about under job factors is, as I said, things like eating at the desk and or skipping lunch altogether. So this could be oh god, my spelling is terrible. Eating at the desk or skipping lunch. And this can be because, you know, there's like overwhelming stress, too many tasks to do, or wanting to leave earlier. But this is one of the things that can lead to negative impacts on our health, is skipping lunch and eating at the desk. And that actually links with stress as well. So what happens with stress as well is it can lead to more likely to snack on unhealthy things. And what studies do show is that, you know, that boredom that you get, you know, to relieve that boredom in the afternoon, you're more likely to snack on something unhealthy. So definitely workplace stress has a massive impact. And yeah, just kind of feeling overburdened, too many tasks to complete, like a demanding office environment or any type of work environment, leads to people that are skipping lunch, and so that's one of the things as well. The other thing is kind of business dinners or meetings, and this can even be like any events that you have and the foods that you have available during those events or meetings. Like often it is quite unhealthy food, it's biscuits and stuff like that, or at the business events, yeah, it will be kind of unhealthy options. I mean, yeah, you can tell me if it's different, but occasionally there might be some healthy options there, but you know, from what I know, it's not like so.
Lots of biscuits, I think you're right.
Yeah, lots of biscuits, yeah, definitely.
Coffee as well is the big one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, coffee is another thing as well. So they're the kind of things. And then the other theme we can look at is the workplace environment. And this is the first big one for this is, do you have a place to prepare, eat and store food? So we know that if there isn't this place to eat, prepare or store food, then people are likely to eat at their desks and get something unhealthy to eat at their desks. If there is a place where people can prepare their own lunches, they're less likely to go and buy something that's kind of quick and easy to eat. So that's really important, that you have a kitchen where it can be stored, where people can make food. but also a nice place that's just away from their desk, that encourages people to eat away from their desk, a nice like communal place where you can take a break. Yeah, the other thing is cost as well. So you mentioned if you have unhealthy things available, and not even like a cake culture of people bringing things in, but if burgers and chips are cheaper than the healthier options, that can sometimes encourage people to go for the unhealthy option. And you know, on the flip side of that as well, if you have free fruit in the office or in the workplace, we know that that encourages people to have more fruit at work, and then they're more likely to be healthier and improve their health. And the same as well, which you mentioned with the canteen. So if there's more fruit and veg options, then people will eat it, and you know, it will improve their health. The other thing as well is nutrition information. So having nutritional information in the canteen for some people can encourage them to make healthier choices, because then at least you have that awareness. So it doesn't work with everybody, but at least with some people, if you know which is the healthier choice, it might influence you to make the better choice.
Can I ask a question about this?
Yeah, of course, go ahead.
Sorry, just thinking about people who are maybe slightly more sensitive about the subject. Could this be a trigger for people to make the wrong choices for the wrong reasons, or we shouldn't really worry about it?
No, it's a brilliant question. That's a really, so I guess you're saying
so if someone has an eating disorder, basically,
yes, yeah,
you know, having those labels and having, I don't know, saying that this is less calorific than the other option. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely, it can. I mean, when we're saying this, we're thinking kind of the general population, without you know, taking into consideration anyone with a specific disorder in terms of you know, around eating. Of course, that is a bit of a difficult one. I guess for the general population, it's about raising an awareness. I think if someone does have disordered eating, it is a bit difficult to kind of cater for that specifically, and would always advise if people, if they were aware, to speak to a professional about that. If you're not aware, then it's kind of difficult to engage with that. But yeah, I mean, you're right though. I think it can be for people to, you know, to have that message around, but I would say if you think more around the general public, kind of, you know, in your workplace, it would be beneficial. But I guess it could be for some people if they were aware of what the options were there. It's funny you mention that, because even sometimes it is actually really funny, because with some people, if they're aware of what the healthy option is, they're more likely to go for the other thing. Yes, they are. Well, there are certain groups of people who are more likely, you know, think, oh, you know, I'm not going to go for that, and especially if they know. So, you know, it's about. So what I've done, not to go on like a tangent too much, but there's a scheme called Healthier Catering Commitment, and with that, you actually do small things like changing the oil or reducing salt, so it's not noticeable. So even if someone goes for a fry up, if you think of the kind of people who are going to go for, you know, like a greasy spoon cafe, they can still have their fry up, and it's less likely to cause them a heart attack without them thinking, oh, you know, I'm having something healthy. No, you're still having your fry up, but it's a bit. But so yeah, you know, there's a whole world of psychology around how people kind of think around that. Yeah, I hope I've kind of helped.
No, that's really interesting. Please send the link later as well.
Yeah, great. And then that links in kind of nicely to the third thing, which is social, and you mentioned it earlier, and that's basically the support. So the social element can go two ways. It can have a negative or a positive influence. Negative being, as you said, if people are kind of influencing you in somehow to have an unhealthy option. just even if they're having it and you think, oh, I really fancy that cake because it's there. But also in a positive way as well. So if you have bring in fruit as well, it could have a positive influence on other people who are trying to lose weight or eat healthier, and that way you can support them. So this can be either through your manager or the organization itself. So by you at the hall having healthy eating messages, that can help to support people to encourage them to make healthy eating choices. And also by your colleagues as well. And you mentioned this earlier about, you know, if someone else is having something, you think, oh, yeah, I really want to eat that as well. So just by supporting each other. So yeah, what do we think kind of these things and things that we've discussed? Is there anything here that you're surprised about or that you're aware of already?
Maybe not surprised, but definitely inspired to encourage like better culture around that subject, because I think we still have like things we could be improving. So like the nutritional info, as you said, or just going around the office and maybe offering fruit instead of biscuits, you know, just small things, having those small conversations even.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really big one. And what about you, Lula?
Yeah, no surprises, but very interesting things, because I never thought about, for example, the cost. Yeah, how cheaper, unhealthy, even though it sounds obvious once you say it, but I never thought about that in detail. Like, yeah, like when you go fetch, yeah, you go get some food, and then yeah, there are some cheaper but unhealthier options, and you don't even think about that. You just go for the, I don't know, the Tesco's £3 meal deal with, when I do that, I usually go for crisps, and, you know, many people do the same, get something very unhealthy with something very sweet, or, you know, or crisps, or, yeah, so it's good. Yeah, there's just an example, cost. When you mention the business dinners and meetings, in my department, I work at the tours department. We don't really have business dinners, but we do have lots of meetings. And as we were saying, both of us, by the way, yeah, it's plenty. There's always plenty of cookies, and yeah, it's mainly biscuits and a lot of tea, a lot of coffee, and then yeah, it's good to. I never thought about that too. That you know.
Yeah, I wonder how we can challenge it, and maybe, you know, could we campaign for different options?
Yeah,
Because,
maybe.
like, is it as simple as having a conversation with who are our
I found brilliant when you both spoke about like just free fruit, you know, it's cheap, easy, you know, it's I think that's a good, if we could have both, probably not just have the fruit, because yeah, I think we need a transition. There's a huge cake culture, sweet culture, you know. I think alcohol and sugar, gosh, we know how our culture, you know, like supports those two things, like the excessive consumption, I think, of those two things. And so yeah, if we could have probably, yeah, keep the two options, but at least offer something else apart from, you know, the sugary stuff, and the that would be, I think, a very good option. I would love to go to a meeting and say, oh, well, we've got apples, not just cookies, but we've got, I don't know, something else.
I think also seeing people excited about those options will also make you, like, it will be, you will be likely to be more excited about it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
But yes, Sarah, if you could send me the details about, you know, this like healthy swaps, that will be amazing, because then again we can talk to the canteen committee or whoever, and then see what we can do.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that brilliant things that you've mentioned. And yeah, around the free fruit. And it isn't just about, as you say, having fruit. You know, I'm the first person to say I love a brownie or a cake as well. And, you know, so it's having the
Guilty.
balance between both, isn't it? But if you have both options there, then at least you encourage people.
Exactly.
And there is a lot of evidence, and I will send you the papers as well, Kasia, to share that around if you even have one more portion of fruit at work, it can improve mental well-being. And so we're not saying even have the 5 a day, just have one more.
Yeah.
Because people at work, we're nowhere near meeting the 5 a day, just have at least one more. And so during meetings, and if they're free, at least then, you know, because what we did is we started a like a free fruit box thing in the office, and I will tell you, you know, the cake tin is always empty, biscuit tin, but the fruit box was always empty as well, and I think it just shows you will eat anything, firstly. But it shows you that if it's there, you know, it's not like people were saying, oh, I really don't like fruit, and it was just left there till the end of the week. No, people had it, because if it was there, people would grab something healthy on their way back to their desk. So definitely, I mean, this works. So yeah, and it's a lot easier to implement, and you can actually see it has a direct influence, even if you think, you know, this one might not have an effect, this one might not have an effect. Definitely just having that there will help. And again, I would say that one of the bigger things for me is kind of skipping it altogether, and the stress. We see so much people, you know, even if you're working from home or you are at the hall, just thinking, oh, I've got so much to do, and skip lunch. As you said, you've skipped breakfast. So what are you going to go for when it's 3 o'clock? Yeah, it will be the biscuits in that meeting, because you've just had nothing all day. So this, I think, is one of the big things as well. Great. Okay, so let me get rid of all that. Right, brilliant. So just taking into consideration all the stuff we've been thinking about and all the good ideas you've come up with, this is called the Smarter Planning for Change. I'm sure you've all heard of SMART goals before.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know about Lola, maybe not.
No? Okay, so I'll explain it to you. It's really simple, and this is just called Smarter because they've added a bit on the end. But basically, it's if you want to create a goal for yourself in, you know, any type of goal, whether it be at work, home life, personal life, diet, physical activity, what we need to do is make it SMART, okay? And that's making it specific, measurable, action orientated, realistic, evaluated, timed, and reviewed. So all this means is I'll go through an example, and then I'll give you 10 minutes to work through on your own one of these, and then go and grab a coffee or something, and then we'll come back and have a little chat before we go on to the next bits. But basically, so just to give you kind of an example, so say I want to eat more fruit and veg. So I've realized from that previous activity that, you know, I need to get my 5 a day. What you need to do first is be really specific. So I'll say I'm going to have one more piece of fruit. Make it really as specific as possible. So I'm going to have one more piece of fruit every day. And then you go through each of these steps. Whoops, sorry, I've gone way too quick. What you'll do to make that change happen. So I'm going to buy some fruit. How much of this will you do and how often? So we're really getting into the detailed stuff, because we know that if we get more detailed, then you're more likely to stick to it. And then what needs to happen to allow me to do this? Well, I need to make sure that I buy less biscuits in my food shop and I buy more fruit. This is assessing kind of your confidence and knowledge. So basically you're looking at your barriers here. What's stopping you, or what stopped you in the past from achieving this? Again, here, what's most likely to stop you, and what can you do to get over these barriers? So I can say, you know, a barrier for me is that if I've had a long day, or if I'm bored, or if I'm having a coffee, I'll want to have a pastry and a cake with it. And I tend to have a lot of coffee while I'm working, and that makes me want to have a cake or a biscuit. Then you need to think about how you can get around that. Well, how can I make time to make sure I get all of my fruit in? Maybe do I add it to my breakfast? Or do I have a piece in the evening? And so you just basically thinking really gets you to think about, the goal that you want to change. So we're going from, I want to eat more fruit, which is just kind of really out there. It's not detailed. You're not accountable to yourself then for that, to a really specific goal of, I want to eat one more piece of fruit every day during the week. I'm going to make it realistic, because I'm not going to say at the weekend, I'm only going to try it for 3 days a week. So you're really, really digging down into the details there. So how does that sound?
Scary.
Really?
No, I'm joking. No.
No, it's supposed to be, it's supposed to make it easier, hopefully.
It's the accountability that
Yeah,
I always struggle with.
That's the hard bit, isn't it? But you have to, when you have to be accountable to yourself, it's always the difficult thing, because you'll come to the end of the week and you're like, oh, I've not had any. I'm just going to give up then.
Yeah.
It's that whole diet starts next week, right?
Never gonna happen.
Yeah, so I will give you then 5 minutes just to make some notes for yourselves. So you can do this on your own and just have a think. I'll send this out later as well. You can share it with everyone and use it. But just going to give you a couple of minutes now to have a think about if there's anything you've got in mind that you'd like to work on. How are we finding it? Does it make sense, or have I lost you?
No, it's all good.
Great. Okay. Fabulous. Yeah, just let me know kind of when you're ready to rejoin.
Just a quick question. On the left side, there's a green column. So the fourth paragraph says taxes all ODQs. What's that?
Yeah. This is around open questions. So this is just to get you to think about. It's basically not a yes or no question.
Oh yeah, like how, where, when.
Yeah, exactly.
Why?
So it's to prompt you to give more detail. So
Okay.
if it's just like, something that where you'll just say yes or no, then there's no detail there. But because I'm going to ask you, well, how are you going to do it, and when will you do it? So that's all that means.
Oh, great. Thank you. So, like open questions. I didn't know what the D stood for. So I said, yeah, open questions. Well, yeah. So sorry. That's cool. That's awesome.
Is it direct? Open
Yeah,
direct?
I think it says open direct
Open
questions.
direct questions. Now I get it. That's cool. All right. I just need 1 more minute because I understood the principle, but I still a bit vague. So I'm just gonna try and pin it down to like concrete steps or something.
To make it a really specific.
Exactly, like when, what, quantity, blah blah blah. Yeah, all that.
Yeah. No. You take your time. That's absolutely fine.
That's great. Thank you.
I like the last question, like with whom you can discuss this. So that really makes you then be accountable for what you have done or not done.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a nice activity that you can do with other people as well, even in team meetings or things like that. So it is for yourself, but you can, by doing this, then you can kind of, it's that support element, isn't it? You can support each other through it if you know that you're both working on something you want to change.
I think I'm ready. I think.
Yeah, brilliant.
Right, I think I'm ready to.
Great, fantastic. So firstly, how did you find that, guys? Did anything come out of that? Yeah, what did you guys think?
It was surprisingly, like, it was easier than I thought it will be. But it's just putting it into motion that is probably going to be the challenging part. Just making that first step of actually introducing this to my life, I guess.
Yeah.
But actually having those written down makes it a little bit easier and more clear, like a clear direction of where I would want to go, I guess.
Yeah,
I
agree. It offers us a kind of a clear structure, so it brings us clarity, I think, because we tend to be a bit too abstract in our minds. Oh, I should do something. I should, if I did this, if I did that, and there's nothing measurable. There's nothing, like rationally, like quantifiable, and so that gives us that kind of frame. Actually, when I was taking notes about my goals, I immediately thought about having a kind of a small spreadsheet or something that I can really quantify, like, because I put like the maximum kind of treats every week. That's how I thought, to improve my eating habits. So I was writing down, no more than, 5 cups of maybe coffee or tea in the week. I don't think that's because I usually go for decaf tea, decaf coffee. So 5 cups of decaf, I don't think that's too much. But yeah, I think I'm going to pretty much put all of those things on a spreadsheet and quantify every week. And the idea came from seeing that kind of structured model there. So yeah, thanks, very useful.
Did you want us to go through the examples, or?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind hearing them if you're happy to share them. That would be fine if you're happy to. If not, then we can
skip.
Yeah. Whatever would suit you. It's kind of it's an activity for you to do for yourself. But if you'd like to share it, then I'm more than happy to hear it. But it's absolutely fine.
How do you feel, Gashier? Would you like to share, or would you rather not? It's just so I know because I think I am actually quite. I would like to.
You would like to share? Yeah, I don't mind actually. I think it
nice.
might be good to hear if we're going in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay. Brilliant. Let's hear what you've got.
You want to start, Lula?
Shall I start? Yeah.
Yeah. Go for it.
Well, it's every person is different. Everyone has a different kind of relationship with food. So just to give you very quickly a bit of context, I stopped eating sugary laden, like sugary stuff. I don't eat them. I don't eat desserts. I don't drink fizzy drinks and stuff like that. So that's a massive step. I rarely drink alcohol. It's a few glasses of wine every 4 months, maybe. So my problem is pretty much caffeine, coffee and tea. I tend to drink too much. And because of the limitation on sugar, I think I've been probably a bit too harsh on the fruit. I haven't been eating enough fruit. So on my goals, it's like eat at least, sorry, not at least. I put on average like 2 pieces of fruit. I know it sounds not a lot, but yeah, I had I basically had a very strong sugar addiction. So yeah, I know myself. It sounds a bit harsh, but yeah, I was eating zero, to be honest, piece of fruit. I was eating just vegetables and nothing with a sweet taste, not a trigger, afraid of triggering the kind of addiction. So I put one of my goals, like limiting my consumption of coffee and tea, usually decaf, but maximum 5 cups a week. Eating on average 2 pieces of fruit, which is a massive step forward to me, because as I said, I eat the odd piece of fruit like here and there. And so, but I think I'm ready to go back to it. And limiting, I put like 2 portions of deli cuts and sausages and salami. That's something, that's my kind of treat. I love those things, sausages and highly processed food and very unhealthy things. And so limiting the the amount of what I eat in terms of deli cuts for 2 portions maximum a week. And I put fried stuff like 2 maximum. So those are maximum a week. So because I think I eat quite healthily already, but it's just trying to find a balance, between eating healthily but not feeling deprived and feeling miserable because I'm so, conscious about what I eat. So I think treats are also very important. So I just chose like 2 deli cuts, 2 portions of deli cuts a week, 2 fried portions of fried stuff, crisps, maybe chips or something a week, an average of 2 pieces of fruit and maximum 5 cups of tea and coffee a week. And I'm going to put that on a spreadsheet.
That is quite ambitious.
Yeah.
If I may say so.
Yeah, people think about that, especially when it comes to sugar. But actually, I've been really avoiding things with a sweet taste for 3 years already. So it doesn't, I think for most people, it sounds a bit like, wow, you're eating already, quite healthily or something. But for somebody who has been, having this kind of lifestyle for 3 years, I think it's achievable. I think it's realistic, they are from the SMART goals. But I know it's very different from most people's kind of eating habits. I know it took me years to kind of
get to that point.
Yeah. But,
impressed, I must say.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thanks. It sounds a bit. I know it sounds a bit extreme, but it's what suits me now. Yeah, especially after having had so much trouble with sugar. So we have to consider those things. Sorry, I've spoken too much. Kasia, please
no,
share with us.
No, not at
I
all.
was loving to listen to this. And actually, I don't think we talk enough about sugar addiction at all.
Yeah.
It's such a huge thing. So I'm 100% with you on that one.
I totally agree. When I had my problem, my issue, it was so difficult for me to put a finger on it because I never heard of sugar addiction, and it was really tough to learn. Like, wow, it was really like a drug. I would eat compulsively, have full meals of just desserts and ice creams and cakes and chocolate and pastries and full meals, really, and big ones, by the way. So
Are you feeling stronger now, like mentally and physically, because of?
My mood in general is much better since I started reducing carbs. I did a kind of a keto diet, so carbs in general, and that was the decisive step towards kicking the habit of overeating sugar. And from that point onwards, when I did my keto diet onwards, wow, my concentration, my focus, my memory, my sleep, my emotional balance, there was a kind of a clear improvement. However, to be very honest with you, after that, I didn't stay on that level. There was an amazing, probably 3-4 months, and then it settled. Then I still feel the benefits, but I didn't stay on that kind of idea. That high, that peak of, concentration and focus, blah, blah, blah. Then I think my body just settled and I became, more close to where I was before, but still with an improvement, with a clear improvement. Yeah.
I feel like Sarah wants to say something about that later, maybe.
Yeah. Yes, we'll discuss energy and mood and things like that later on. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, no, great. But thank you so much for sharing that. That is brilliant, that you've kind of already made changes before, positive changes, and you have that awareness already. And but you, just as you're saying, and I'm hearing you saying, I did this and I noticed a change in my concentration and my mood and stuff like that. So that's really, really important. Yeah, what you mentioned about the spreadsheet is really cool, because actually, as nutritionists, one of the first things we'll do with people when we see clients is get them to do like it's called a 24-hour questionnaire, or a food frequency it's called diary. That's it. And basically, where you fill out everything you've eaten in the past day. And it's a lot harder than it sounds, actually, because especially for the 3-day one, you tend to forget, especially snacks. You tend to forget really what you've actually eaten. Yeah, so that's a good way for you to kind of track, or to pick out a goal, to think, oh, actually, this is what I need to work on, because you've written it all down. And yeah, so that can help sometimes, just to write it all down.
Brilliant. I didn't go as far as making a list of goals. I just for the sake of exercise, I just did one.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And it was to introduce one new vegetable every week. So to achieve this, obviously, you just put a new vegetable in your shopping basket every week. And then I imagine maybe monitor this for a month or so, see how it goes. And the only kind of I think we fall into the routine of eating the same things all the time, and I'm put my hand up. I do this a lot. Like, if you go on a weekly shopping, you end up having the same things in your basket every week, and I think you don't get so excited about food anymore after a while. So, introducing that one extra new thing in your basket might actually push you to do something different. So let's see how it goes.
Yeah, brilliant. No, thank you for that, Kasia. I think it's a great idea, and even it's realistic, just as a goal itself. And that whole realistic element, though, it really does depend on where you are and how many things you want to and you can achieve. So this is why it's a really good thing, as an individual. You could do it as an organization, but it's good as an individual, because you'll know which level you're at. With that, you'll need that. It's just thinking, well, if you take it a step further, you're like, well, you need the motivation to think, well, I'll add it to my basket, but then do I look for recipes where that can have aubergine in it, because I don't know what I can make with aubergine, and it's that going that next step of thinking, really, of how to
being more conscious of what you're putting into your body, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because then when people can say, well, I don't know actually what to do, and then you go further and further into, well, actually you can look for recipes around that, you can have a play around, you didn't like the taste of that, make something different, so yeah, this is just one idea that works, because it's kind of really gets you to think. So yeah, I hope you found it useful, and as I said, I'll give you a copy of it afterwards, and you can use it whenever you want to think of something. Brilliant. Great. Okay, just let me know if you guys want a break or anything, otherwise we can just kind of go through everything. Is that okay? We'll just go. Right. Brilliant.
Yep.
Great. So if you didn't manage to, so we did both manage to think of something, but if you couldn't manage to think of something, we're going to discuss now al desco to al fresco, time to ditch the desk at lunch. And then we will talk about food and mood and eating the rainbow as well. So hopefully that can help stimulate some ideas into some goals we can achieve. So what we can see here is that it's quite common. So these different articles, all pre-COVID, when people had offices and workplaces, it just demonstrates basically that it's quite common. A lot of people do eat at their desk or skip lunch altogether. So I mean, just to throw it back to you guys, what do you think? Is it something that happens quite common in your workplace? Is it something you do a lot, or do you think you're kind of okay with eating away from the desk?
I think Lula will have a very different idea to me because we have such a different styles of working, don't we? But I can tell from the office experience that depends which office you are working in, the culture will be different. So there will be offices where people don't feel comfortable leaving their desk, and they feel like they can't really, even though they completely entitled to their break. And there will be offices where like people actually follow this through, and people encourage each other to have lunches and even a short walk over lunch together, which is great. But working from home, for me personally, was much harder to step away from the computer than I can do it at the hall. Sorry, someone just walked into the room. So, and I know few other people had the same issue.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
But then on the flip side, you had people who were actually more encouraged to make their own meal, and they felt encouraged to be in their own environment and do it on their own terms. So it's quite interesting how it depends on where you are and who you are, and if you have also sharing like space with other people. So I don't know, Lula, what your experience is because of
my experience at the whole is, as you said, it's very different because as tour guides, we don't work at the desk. We work walking, we work showing the building to people. And when we have breaks, including lunch break, we've got a room, the steward's room, which is, well, the steward's and tour guide's room, which is, comfortable. There's a fridge, there's a microwave, there's a kitchen, small kitchen. So yeah, I think we've got the perfect conditions really to have a proper lunch break. However, when I worked as an agent, I'm a tour guide and an actor, and I used to work in a talent agency, like taking care of actors and as an agent actor. And there I could see that most of the other agents, actors, most of them would not take a proper lunch break. They would do exactly what's described on the screen, like eating, a quick meal, very unhealthy one, in 5 minutes whilst typing on the computer. And I was one of the rare ones who would take I'm French Brazilian, so I think it's more part of my culture to have, a proper lunch break. I think the meal time is quite sacred, especially in France. In Brazil, yeah, why not? But in France, yeah, definitely. You don't have lunch or dinner or whatever in front of the computer. That's just like, what, are you crazy? So again, it's that kind of culture that really has a massive impact on our behavior, doesn't it? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, really great points. And then, so just having to think about, you've just made me think, so do you have a lot of shift workers, if you think about kind of the stewards and stuff like that? Are they?
We do. But so kind of each group has a different kind of breaking pattern. So you would have, let's say, box office who are shift workers, and they would have the full-timers get a full 1 hour lunch break, and they are forced to just go away, which is brilliant because it's just so easy. They don't have a choice, they just have to go. But then you have stewards who only get maybe 20-minute break, and it's not a lunch break because they're working in the evening, so it's a different type of break. So you have the tour guides who are working during the day, and again, I think they are more likely to take their break.
No, that's a great point as well about the different hours they work. And Yeah, I mean, definitely for shift workers, there's a lot around kind of poorer eating habits, more likely to eat unhealthy foods, which I can, yeah, and the caffeine as well. So yeah, that's something else that I usually talk about. What's interesting though about your workplace is you have kind of a good mix between office-based workers and shift workers, but definitely in terms of that group, they're probably more at risk of health conditions, and they're just more, unfortunately, more likely to eat unhealthier because of the hours that they work. And as you said, the breaks don't really give them an option to, you know, it's not really a dinner time, enough time to have a dinner, and it's not the lunch break, and it's just that's difficult. Yeah, so there's a lot of challenges with working shifts, but in terms of for your office-based workers, or as you said, even for working from home, I mean, definitely yes. As you said, it's kind of a double-edged sword, really, because when you're working from home, you just need to be aware of that proximity you are to the kitchen and to getting snacks. But on the other hand, you know, it has meant for some people there's more time to cook. So there is an opportunity to actually go and eat in your kitchen, because you have that, again, dependent on your space and who you're living with and all of that. But yeah, so it's the skipping lunch or eating away at the desk can, as I mentioned earlier, encourage mindless eating. And yes, it's basically the opposite of mindful eating. I mean, if you think about kind of when we go to the cinema is the best example, when you have a big tub of popcorn, and I don't know about you, but I finish it before even the trailers are finished. And I think, like, gosh, now what am I going to eat for the rest of the movie? And I didn't even feel that I had a whole tub of popcorn. Because you're just like this, you know. And it's the same thing. It doesn't matter what your distraction is. It's the same thing, whether you're going to be at your desk looking at the sports or working. It's a distraction. So it's why we would recommend to eat away from the desk. And these are just a couple of other reasons why it's really important to take a break. Again, as you said, you know, some people just want to stay at their desk and get everything done, and there's a lot to get done. But actually, it's you know, you're more likely to perform better and be more productive if you take that break. You can come back, be more creative, think of better ideas if you've actually had some time, and gives you, you know, maybe not working from home, but when you are actually at the hall, gives you a chance to network with colleagues as well, and that can help from the social element, but also help from productivity and performance as well, because you can share ideas. And the big one is just eating more mindfully, really getting to actually savor your food. And then when you eat more mindfully, you're less likely to overeat later on. So it does actually help with meal satisfaction and satiety. Brilliant. Yes, so we talked a little bit about working from home. So the working from home and the added stress from the media and the news led to us feeling more anxious, stressed, and depressed, which led to us overeating during lockdown and during the pandemic. So this is what came out from a survey from the British Nutrition Foundation. Looks like there's quite a bit of information here, but it's just to show that, you know, a lot more people felt stressed and anxious, and this led to overeating, as we mentioned earlier. And when people overeat, it tends to be foods that are high in sugar and fat. That's our comfort foods. But what we know, though, is having a diet that's nutrient-rich, nutrient-dense, and contains all the vitamins, minerals, amino acids, and fatty acids can actually help to support our mental well-being. The brain uses up a lot of energy even when we're sleeping. So that having that fluctuating blood sugar, so you know that you might have had the sugar crash when you have like a fizzy drink or some sweets, and then it will gives you that sugar and then it comes crashing down. That actually leads us to, after the high, it leads us to feeling irritable and can aggravate our mood. A couple of things just to think about: are you snacking more now that you're working from home? And skipping meals or eating sugary snacks can lower our concentration, our mood, and our reaction time. So this is the impact that it can have if you skip meals, so skipping that breakfast or lunch, and not having healthy snacks. But by eating regular meals and healthy snacks and keeping hydrated, that's one way we can improve our mental health. So yeah, this is how you can avoid that mid-afternoon sugar crash. So these are some things we can think about. Okay, if you have more than 4 to 5 hours between your meals, then snacking can be a good option. A lot of people think, you know, snacking is actually a bad thing, but it just depends on what you're snacking on. So it gives you that fuel that stops us from overeating. If your meals are less than 4 to 5 hours apart, there are just some questions here that you can have a think about. We mentioned at the start, am I hydrated? Have I had enough carbohydrates at meal times? And this will be really important because you mentioned earlier the keto diet, but it's interesting to think about kind of how sustainable that is in terms of a long term, because it does help with weight loss, but if we're thinking about like a more sustainable long term, we do need those starchy carbohydrates. And am I snacking out of habit or because I'm hungry? So if we all just picture, this happens a lot with me, especially when I was in the office, 3 o'clock, you've had a busy day of meetings or just working through what you had to get through, skipped lunch, and the first thing you see is chocolates on the cabinet, or if you're at home in the cupboards, and it's just the first thing that you reach out to. And as we said earlier, that stress and boredom, I will reach for the chocolates, So as I've said, eating regular meals, foods that release energy slowly, like whole grains, and that can help to stabilize that blood sugar. What we see is you get that spike with like really high sugar stuff, but porridge actually makes it go like that.
Stable, yeah.
Yeah, stable, and then you'll be full for a little bit longer. That brings me on really nicely to this. So we might have heard of lean gains if you've heard of gym culture, but for this muscle we have to think about the whole grains, and it's really linked to what I was talking about a minute ago about those the reason to having those carbohydrates. So we all know that carbs give us energy, but they also give us B vitamins as well. So they're rich in B vitamins, and these have been proven to help support and manage things like depression. And whole grain carbohydrates, so there are some carbohydrates that I suppose are better than others, in moderation. These help to control the rate of blood sugar. It helps control your blood sugar and the rate of sugar to your body and your brain. So as well as B vitamins, it's also a fantastic source of fibre, and this helps to keep us fuller for longer, and we don't get enough fibre in our diet. And the way this works is fibre helps to support our gut bacteria, and the gut bacteria, so this is the good bacteria, produces these compounds that help our brain function. So there's a lot of science kind of behind the gut and the brain. So whole grain cereals, but also pulses, fruits and vegetables, and nuts and seeds are good sources of fibre.
Sarah, would you mind if I ask you a question about that? It's just because I saw nuts and seeds. I was thinking more of the seeds when I eat like whole grain. When I read whole grains, I think immediately of the smaller ones like pumpkin seeds or sunflower, I don't know, linseed. So it's both actually. It's I don't know, Brazil nuts and pecan nuts and also seeds. It's a mix of everything, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
so we'll want the whole grain cereals, but also you can get the fibre from other sources as well. So you can get it from fruits, vegetables, and pulses, and the nuts and seeds, which are really good sources of omega-3. Particularly if you don't eat oily fish and meat, yeah. So yeah, all these range of things will help to give you more fibre.
Nice.
Now I'm gonna throw a curveball in there. So for someone who can't have a high fiber diet, what would you recommend for those people to do?
Mm-hmm.
Because we know fiber is very important, but then what if you suffer with condition that means that you can't actually eat a lot of fiber?
Yeah, really good point. So there are things like irritable bowel disorders and stuff like that, where you have to watch kind of which types of foods you have, and also for people with other gut conditions as well, like celiac disease. I think with that, then I would recommend really to look at specialist advice from a dietitian on foods for IBS, because there's a lot out there on specific things to have for the different types of for those conditions.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely there are ways to get B vitamins and whole grains without eating things that are too high in fiber. But sorry, there will be things that can where you can get these nutrients, but without avoiding too much fiber in the diet. Because I think there are certain foods that cause more symptoms than others, if I'm right. I'm thinking like onions and things like that. So I'm sure there will be a list out there that I'm happy to share from the British Dietetic Association that will have the kind of gut friendly and the ones that are not so friendly. And then I would suggest from there picking out the foods that can make sure, yeah, exactly, that you're not deficient in all the vitamins, but still don't cause any symptoms, if that kind of makes sense.
Yep, thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Great. So the other thing that's really important for our mood and our immune system is omega-3. And this is a really key nutrient for our brain health. And basically, it's because our brain is made from omega-3. So the cells are the membranes, so not to get too sciencey, but they're made from essential fatty acids. And they're called essential because we need to get them from the diet. We can't make them ourselves. And they help with the functioning of things like serotonin and dopamine. And you may or may not have heard of these, but they're kind of like the happy hormones. They help with balancing our mood and motivation and clarity. So there is a link there between omega-3 and our mental well-being. We can get omega-3 from oily fish. Also from flax seeds and pumpkin seeds and walnuts, and from the oils as well. So walnut oil, rapeseed oil, if you are vegan or vegetarian, are good sources. Also taking a omega-3 supplement or omega-3 supplement rather than fish oil supplement is much better, but try to get at least 2 portions of oily fish in our diet per week. I say try because it's not easy for everyone to eat more oily fish, especially kind of in the UK, but yeah, definitely very, very beneficial for our mental well-being.
Is there a difference between eating fresh, like mackerel, sardines, anchovies, and them being smoked, or I don't know, the anchovies you get in vinegar, or so like processed?
Yeah, so I think just sometimes with them being smoked, as they can be a bit higher in salt. That's the thing that I would be careful of with any of the smoked foods. I just look at the salt content on the label. But otherwise, in terms of it being, for example, fresh versus frozen, there's no nutrient difference between that, but just the smoking sometimes can mean that it's a bit higher in salt. Those foods, yeah.
Do those fish include salmon as well? Because I didn't find salmon on the list, but I think it does, right? Because
yeah. The list isn't exhaustive, so there are many other options, but definitely salmon is an oily fish and a really good option. Yeah.
great, thanks. Cool.
Fantastic. Yeah. So this is just a picture to demonstrate and show that we need a variety for our mental well-being, and chocolate is on there.
I was just about to say, you'll make me really happy.
Good. I would have to say, if it wasn't there, then definitely my mental well-being would be affected. But in proportions, maybe the picture of chocolate should be a lot smaller than the avocado and the orange and the berries. But
it says a lot, the size of the chocolate.
I know, it's like the size of the roast chicken, isn't it? Look at it.
It's almost as big as that brain, to be honest.
Yeah, but we can see here, we've got our nuts, so getting those essential fats as well. Maybe a bit of vitamin D from the meats there if it's low, a good cut of meat with not much fat on it. You've got your vegetables there and some fruit. So it's just to show you need a variety in your diet. So this brings me on to eating the rainbow, and variety is the spice of life. So this is where I'm going to focus a little bit more on immunity. And so we're in the midst of a global pandemic, and I'm going to give you some tips on how we can make sure our immune system is working at its best. There's no silver bullet. So I'm not going to give you kind of the secret to making sure you don't get COVID. I'm going to tell you that right now. This isn't what this is about. So there is no silver bullet, and there is no one food that can prevent you from getting an infection or probably treat an infection, because that actually requires you to be exposed to the virus. Okay, so you need to be exposed to it. It's not about kind of what you eat. But by eating the rainbow, by eating a healthy diet, we can make sure that our immune system is in its best position possible to fight an infection if we were exposed to it. So this is what this is about, okay? And also, it's about making sure that we are not malnourished, because when you're malnourished, you have this like vicious cycle. So our immune system becomes compromised. And then we're more susceptible to getting another infection. And when we've all had the flu or a cold, we lose our appetite, and it ends up in a vicious cycle of you're more likely to get another infection. So what we do know is the immune system requires a range of vitamins and minerals to work properly. And eating the rainbow, you can make sure that you get most of these nutrients and antioxidants that are required in each stage. So what we know is that basically the immune system is broken up into two bits, so the innate and the adaptive, and each stage requires different vitamins. And in many of the stages, basically you require the same vitamins. So it's just, but without overcomplicating it, it's just to say that you need all of this for it to work properly. So it's not just about having more fruit and veg, but it's also about having a variety, and that's why the different colors really helps with that. Mm-hmm. So to give an example, vitamins A, C, and D are needed for that the innate bits, so our skin and gut, that acts as a physical barrier from the microbe actually getting in. So this is the start of your immune system working. It's that barrier. Then we go into the adaptive and vitamin D, B12, zinc, copper, and selenium. So yeah, as we can see, we need kind of like all of them to work in these different bits. Yeah, so less than a third of us meet the 5 a day already, but it's not just about having more, it's also about having and trying a different type as well. So these are where you can get some of the different nutrients. So vitamin A from dark green leafy vegetables, vitamin C from citrus fruits and peppers, and folate you can get from leafy greens and berries. And I've just put a tip there at the bottom, a simple way to add it if you really don't eat a lot of fruit and veg, just to add it even to breakfast and sandwich fillings. Is there anything you can think about, any ways you can think about adding fruits and vegetables to your diet?
I personally changed my habits. Again, I think it's going against the kind of the cultural kind of, I don't know, influence, because breakfast, I think we when we think about breakfast, we immediately think about cereal and bread and stuff like that. But I started to add vegetables, which is something that culturally we don't do. I don't think we do in France, Brazil, or the UK. But I just started to enjoy my eggs with, steam cooked vegetables, and, I add, I don't know, kale or, courgette, all of these things to my eggs. And I love it. I love it. It's just, I don't know, probably accepting to be a bit weird, doing things a bit differently as well. Because if we try to follow the norm and be mainstream with everything, I think then it becomes difficult. Like, I'm going to add fruit to that? No, that's not something we do. I'm going to add veggies to breakfast? No, that's not. I think it's, yeah, if we change a bit our mindset, I think that's a good way to add fruit and vegetables to any meal, any snack, That's my tip. That was a good way for me to add more veggies. Yeah.
I saw the other day there was just like alternative breakfast ideas, and they were suggesting to have a sweet potato instead of a bread, which I found really interesting. Like, I would never think about that, but it made me think that these are quite simple swaps, but we don't really like. I think you need to explore it a little bit more and find your own way and find the things that will work for you. Like right now, because it's getting colder, it's so much easier to have a soup, for example, and you could just pile all sorts of vegetables in it, and maybe instead of a traditional breakfast, actually mix some fruits you like and have a smoothie instead, which people tend to forget to do as well. And it's so easy, like you just whiz everything up together and you have a very delicious drink in minutes.
Yeah. No, those are very great ideas, I think, actually. Yeah, just challenging the way we normally eat.
Yeah.
And the way we're brought up, and some really, quick, easy ideas, as you said, just adding it to, having even, as you said, as a smoothie is a quick, easy option to get a couple of extra portions in. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I always do is, if I'm saying, let's say, have pasta with bolognese sauce, instead of using the meat, I actually would throw a new vegetable every now and then and see how it goes, like experiment, or just add a few vegetables to it. So just make it a little bit more worthwhile.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. Definitely adding it to pastas, soups. As you said, they're really great options on porridge. It's just they're really easy ways to just throw it in there. Definitely kind of in terms of lunch and dinner, just throwing it in pasta or soups, because you can just mix it in and add different flavors, and it's easier to kind of just chop it in and chuck it in there, and it's less kind of
sometimes you don't
Yeah.
even have to chop it, right? Like it's done for you if you're really lazy. If you can get those like
Exactly. This society we have, we can just get the bag ready and just throw it on, and we're
there's some
done.
like
It's fine.
great
Yeah.
mix, you know, like the frozen veg mixes.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
easy. Like you really have no excuse if you don't like like peeling your vegetables.
Absolutely, yeah. You can get the bags which already have kind of onions peeled or spinach, or it's already ready for you there. You just wilt the spinach, just chuck some water on it, or even the bags of veg, and it's the same nutrients as well. So if they've been frozen fresh, then it's much cheaper to get it rather than, because the thing is, it happens to me as well. I buy fresh veg and it will just go off. You don't end up using it and it will go moldy. So it's a really, really good idea.
Does it matter which, like, I've heard somewhere like if you need more iron in your diet, then you should eat more like add vitamin C so it's absorbed better. So does it matter like what you mix up and like how you mix foods together to get better benefits?
Yeah, no, that's you're right with that actually. It does matter. So the way nutrients interact with each other can make a difference, and iron and vitamin C is kind of a really clear one we know, and that's sometimes why you might hear to have orange juice with an iron supplement, or if you're going to have an iron-rich food because it helps you to absorb it. Another really good example is with vitamin D and calcium as well, because they work together. So to make sure that you have those together. So there are nutrient interactions. Yeah, that's true. I would definitely recommend mixing it up, and then the vitamin C source will help you to absorb the iron. Absolutely. Great. Yeah, thanks for that, guys. So we mentioned soups and things like that. I have a recipe here for tabbouleh, which is a Middle Eastern salad. Not very encouraging to eat salads now because we are coming into the winter months. But when
Can
you
not
do,
have like warm salads?
I know, yeah. But yeah, when you do fancy having something like this, I just think it's such a nice way to have like the rainbow, eating the rainbow on your plate. I mean, you could make like even a lasagna a bit more colorful and chuck different peppers and stuff in there. And that's probably going to be more energy and nutrient dense. But this is a good example of kind of eating the rainbow. And what I've got here is each kind of ingredient and what it will give you. So I thought that would kind of help in encouraging people to try this, is because it actually tells you what it's made up of and then what it will give you. But not just that though, it tells you what it will give you and then what that nutrient actually does for our immune system. So that's what I've put here, like which different vitamins you can get and the different ways that it can help to help support our immune system. So everything from attacking microbes to producing antibodies. So again, just to demonstrate that we need different vitamins and minerals for the whole of our immune response.
Would you say fresh herbs are also a good like way of brightening your food, but also like adding those nutrients to your diet?
Yeah, of course. So herbs help to add a bit more flavor to it. And as you can see, it also helps to give some, there are lots of nutrients in them. So here we've got mint and parsley, but there are a variety of other kind of nutritional benefits of other herbs as well. So I think definitely adding them on as well gives a bit more kick and flavor to food. So that will help to encourage us to eat a healthier dish, and also to reduce our salt intake as well, because it's just another way of flavoring food with like lemon and herbs and things like that. And then it can help us to reduce the salt we put in our food. Great. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about vitamin D and its role. So there are a number of vitamins and minerals that are beneficial for our immune system and for COVID-19, but I'm going to focus on vitamin D because a lot of us are vitamin D deficient, which is widely known. Other things, if you are interested, are copper, selenium and zinc. So there's been some research around that as well, and omega-3, there's been some research around that in terms of COVID-19. So vitamin D deficiency is, it's called the sunshine vitamin for a reason, because when we are deficient from vitamin D, we are more likely to feel depressed. So there is a link with our mood and mental well-being and vitamin D. We are more likely to be deficient if we are wearing skin covering clothes, sunblock, skin pigmentation and immobility. So all of these basically mean lack of direct sunlight. So it can mean, you know, because of your skin color or because of age. If you're older, you're less likely to be more mobile and go out more. There are some factors obviously that we can't control for in immunity, but diet is one of the things that we can probably control for more than genetics and our age and illness. So where do we get vitamin D? Well, did you know there aren't actually that many food sources of vitamin D? And as a nutritionist, I would always recommend getting your vitamins and minerals from food rather than taking a supplement. But with vitamin D, it's one of those that it's really difficult to get from food because it's naturally present in very few foods. So as we can see here, we can get it from oily fish, egg yolks, meat, and also from mushrooms that have been irradiated with UV, if they've been sun-dried.
Sorry, George, do you mind just muting us, please?
Hello, welcome. Also from fortified sources. So you'll see on some breads and breakfast cereals that vitamin D has been added. That's things like breads, milks, and dairy products and margarine. But it's not very high, and in our diet in the UK we don't really eat a lot of these foods, and we also don't get a lot of sun. So we're not in a very good place in terms of vitamin D. So this is why I'd advise to take a vitamin D supplement. We want to look for D3 because that's the better form of the two, D3 or D2. And we want to have at least 10 micrograms per day, unless you've been advised by a health professional to take more. So this is why we should have more vitamin D. So as we all know, vitamin D strengthens our bones and our muscles. I like to think of it as a super vitamin because it pretty much is needed all over the body. It's good for our mental health and our hearts. It's good for our kidneys. But it also has a role to play in immune function. So it regulates the immune system and also supports the production of antimicrobial proteins. These basically just help to fight off the virus and also helps with reducing inflammation. So these are just some of the ways that vitamin D supports the immune system. And what we know is that vitamin D receptors, so what vitamin D sticks to, and the vitamin D activating enzyme are found on immune cells. So that kind of suggests to us that it has a role in the immune system because, yeah, it's found in our immune system. So what is the evidence for vitamin D reducing the risk of COVID-19? I mean, there's been a lot of studies around this, and it's been kind of a big topic of interest. I found it really interesting in particular because if we think about when the pandemic started, being the winter time, that was the outbreak, and that's when people tend to be more deficient in vitamin D. So that's kind of what started to get people thinking there might be a link. And then also COVID-19 and vitamin D deficiency is higher in people from a BAME background. So that's kind of gives us an idea that there's an association. Then there was trials done, and they found that actually low dose, low vitamin D status increased the severity of COVID-19 and people that were hospitalized, and people who were given vitamin D were less likely to be hospitalized. So it improved their severity of COVID-19. Again, associations, and these are randomized controlled trials, which are kind of the best form of evidence, but it's just basically shown that people who have a good vitamin D status are less likely to get a severe COVID-19. And I would just leave kind of on this note to say that we are quite deficient, and there isn't any risk of making sure that our vitamin D status is at a good level. If anything, it will just help support your body. So I think even if it didn't stop people from getting COVID-19, it has so many other benefits that I think it's worth taking or checking your vitamin D status. Great, so that is all from me. Thank you so much for listening. So my key messages would be to get more D, optimum omega-3, so to take an omega-3 supplement or eat more oily fish. Also increase our fruit and veg consumption, and to eat more fibre or whole grains to get more B vitamins. So thank you very much for listening, and we have some time for Q&A now if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Sarah, and George, welcome to. Thanks for joining us, even though it was for the last slide, but I hope you found this useful. I found it quite fascinating that actually didn't know that our brain is mainly made of omega-3. That's my takeaway from today. And what I wanted to say, I've recently discovered those fortified, like just normal mushrooms in Tesco's with vitamin D. And I don't know if it's just me thinking that they are full of vitamin D, but they really made me happy. So I really felt a difference in my mood, like after eating them for a while. So if anyone likes mushrooms, and if you can get them, like Tesco's is actually specializing in those. So
well, what's the kind of mushroom you said? Sorry.
It's like chestnut mushrooms, and it actually, it's on the packaging. It says it has like extra vitamin D in them.
Okay.
So
I think it's probably the one I have. Yeah, chestnut, the regular one that comes in the kind of the tray, the green. Yeah, the regular one. Yeah. Oh, nice. Good to know.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for that, Kasha. What about you, Luna?
I loved it. I learned a lot, so thank you very much. I'm very interested in things that can do as good, and so I just wanted to ask you something about the vitamin D, because I have multivitamins in the morning, and they do have. I just took a look now at the quantity of vitamin D3. It says here like 200% of the nutritional recommended value, I think, NRV. But when you have vitamin D with lots of other things, lots of other minerals and other vitamins, does it decrease the, because I heard once, but if you have vitamin D with calcium or magnesium or something, your body just absorbs one or the other, but not both. Is that a thing? Can we have vitamin D with plenty of other stuff, or should we have just vitamin D, a supplement on its own?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's kind of any there's any kind of difference in terms of if you have it with something or without. I think it's, if you are going to take a supplement, make sure to take it with food, and especially the fat soluble vitamins, make sure you're having them with it's preferable, but they've done even studies where if people were to take it with a biscuit or with juice, you're still going to absorb it, but it's preferable to have it with a fat absorbing food. But is that your question? Kind of what will help to absorb it better? Is there anything?
Yeah, I was thinking more of the other minerals and vitamins that come in the same tablet. Do they prevent the body from absorbing each other? Because there are so many vitamins, so many things packed in one tiny tablet. So is it like your body can only absorb some of those vitamins or those minerals, but not all of them? Or not really?
I'm not too sure. I think kind of, you know, as I've said, the ones that work well together are vitamin D and calcium, but I don't think kind of the way they are in a multivitamin would affect too much kind of how much you're going to get out of that. I can check and get back to you, but I don't think it will have too much of an impact in terms of how much you will get from it, whether it's in a multivitamin or on its own. But just to bring it back to kind of what Kasia said earlier about having it with a food that helps to absorb it, I think that would be my tip to help make sure that you get the best interaction possible. So calcium and vitamin D would be a good one.
Great.
I mean, you would hope that they wouldn't put them together if they are counteracting each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. You'd think so, wouldn't you? But yeah, in general, I mean, because sometimes you can find, I think, where they are put together, and you'd hope that if they work together, they'd put them. So I've seen calcium and vitamin D in the same one, or calcium, vitamin D, and magnesium, because they tend to have a good relationship as well. But yeah, there might be something, I think it's phosphate or phytates that have a negative reaction with vitamin D and calcium, but I wouldn't expect to see that with the supplement in there, because that might inhibit it. Yeah.
Nice.
Good point. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I don't have any more questions. I don't know, George, you are still here if you want to ask something quickly before you disappear, or no?
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thank you for joining. Anyway, no problem at all. That's fine. I've just seen the chat. Okay.
Don't worry.
Great. Perfect.
Sarah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining today. Yeah, it's been recorded. I hope it's been useful, and I hope I will be able to share it with you guys. And yeah, thank you very much. I will leave you with some time to go and get something healthy to eat for your lunch away from your desk.
Absorb something.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you so much. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Brilliant.
See you soon, Sarah?
Yes, yeah, hopefully I will be coming to visit the hall to discuss the Healthy Workplace Award. So that would be lovely.
Yes, we are meeting in person, so that's great.
Yes, yeah. That will be fantastic to actually get you guys to meet you guys at last. So that will be fantastic. Yay.
All right, then have a lovely day, and